As a consumer of Flesh and Blood booster boxes, I think the most important factor that people don't really consider is what is the algorithm that puts the cards in the box, and what really are my odds of pulling what I want. And in this video, I want to discuss two different types of how the algorithm works to put cards in the boxes. What are your true odds when opening your product? Because it's really important and it's something that's really not discussed, and I'm kind of surprised. And I really want to focus on legendary cards. So when you're opening booster boxes, right, you have a 25% chance to open a legendary card. There's 1 in 96 packs. If you divide that by 4, you get 24, and that is how many packs are in a booster box. So you have a 25% chance of getting a legendary card in a booster box. But do you really? And that's where I want to go into this video and talk about the two types of ways that the machine can put cards in packs and put it in boxes that really differs in your percentage chance of opening stuff. Now, the first one I want to talk about is sequential randomness. I'm calling them two types of randomness: sequential randomness and true randomness. Sequential randomness is when you say 1 in 96 packs, that is exactly what the machine does. It puts one legendary in 96 packs. Now, you as a high-brained individual might say, well, Bronson, wait a minute. If that is the case, and that the machine puts in 1 in 96 packs, and the packs go into the boxes, and the box goes in the case, that means there's one legendary in every case. Oh my gosh. and yeah, that's true. In sequential randomness, that's what happens. You have a case of booster boxes, 4 boxes in a case right here, and one legendary is almost 100% chance of being in that case, as long as the individual who picked up the wrappers, or the booster packs from the conveyor belt, put them in the boxes as they should have, and didn't accidentally drop one on the ground and stuff like that. Yes, in sequential randomness you will have that. Now, in true randomness, you have a scenario where you don't have this type of event where the machine spits it out every 96 packs. Maybe it's on a certain algorithm in the back end where it does okay at the 24th pack, and then maybe at the 52nd pack, and then maybe at the 90th pack. It does all these things. Now, does all this average out to 1 in 96? Yes, it does. But it does it in a certain way to where it's truly random. You don't know when. It's like the machine rolls a dice every time, a 96-sided die that's out there, right? And if it lands on 96, and if it crits, then it shoots a legendary in the pack. That's what true randomness is when you do this. The machine rolls a dice, basically. It doesn't roll a dice, obviously. It's definitely following some sort of algorithm or some type of randomness schedule. But you get my point. It's truly random, where sequential randomness is every 96 packs, that thing is spitting out like clockwork. Where true randomness is, you have no idea. Rolls a dice every time to see if it will put a legendary card in the pack. Now, before I talk about specifics, I just want to disclose, I do not know exactly what products that Legend Story Studios at this time is doing either one of these randomness things at the moment. I don't know what products that they do. I think that they follow these methods, and I think they've switched it up product to product. But I don't want to assert that I know anything, because I don't want people to use this information. But I think it's very widely known. It's very widely known that these two types of processes for putting cards in packs happens. Now, you might say, Bronson, why does this matter? Well, there's a lot of different things in the background that occur. It really shifts what happens in the overall market, and you as a consumer might not know these different things, and I want to go into it a little bit. So the first one I want to go into it, and I want to talk about a bunch of different views, is the sequential randomness. Now, if you think about having 5 different doors you can go about, let's look at it at a case view, and you have each door, right? It's a game show. Each door has a different case of Welcome to Wrath Unlimited, let's say. Well, in sequential randomness, each door that you go behind has a legendary card. Great. So whatever door you choose, you're gonna get a legendary card. Seems pretty legit. Doesn't seem like gambling too much at all in that standpoint from a consumer aspect. You buy a box, you know you're going to get a legendary, or you buy a case, you know that you're going to get a legendary. You know that there is going to be a really good chance of you doing that. But you might say, hey, wait a minute. If I know I'm going to get one legendary in every case, and I pull a box from that case and I pull a legendary, I could just sell the other boxes because it has a less likely chance of having a legendary card. Well, gosh darn it, yes you can. And is that shady as shit? Yeah. Has it been done before? Probably. If you've seen single booster boxes on eBay or Mercari or any other site that says, hey, I'm selling 2 booster boxes from the case I bought, maybe that's happened. So you really got to cover your ass in those circumstances when you think that a case has that type of randomness in it. If somebody pulls a legendary card, well, then why open the other boxes if you know that there's not going to be a legendary card? And the answer that you will resoundingly say is the Fable card. And I think Fable cards definitely are a driver against for doing this. But if you think about it in the long run, it's just a lot more advantageous for you to just not open the other 2. It is what it is, guys. I mean, I think in this case, if Legend Story Studios has used this, they probably realized that people were doing this, that stores were doing this, that individuals could do this, and I think that that is why true randomness was implemented after the sequential randomness. So I think from a personal aspect, right? Let's talk about personal. I think it incentivizes people to buy cases. For sure. It incentivizes the basic consumer to buy a case because they know for sure they're going to get a legendary. It's like a for sure thing. You go all the other doors. Whereas if you just buy random booster boxes, you have a 25% chance of opening something, but you don't know if someone's screwing you over. Now, from a store perspective, it's really advantageous because you know that you're going to get a legendary in every case. If you're doing a mass box opening and you're saying, hey, I'm going to open 40 cases, you know you're going to get 40 legendaries. So literally what you can do to project what your earnings are going to be as a store is literally say, okay, how much do all 6 of the legendary cost? And then what you do is you take the average amount of all 6 legendaries. Let's say the average of 6 legendaries of the price point is like, $150, let's say, right? Of any set. I don't know. Welcome to Wrath. And then you say, okay, well, I'm going to get 40 of those. So I do 150 times 40 because you know you're going to get that. And then you can accurately project your earnings of what you're going to do. And if you're more shady of a store and you say, hey, well, I'm going to open 40 cases, I'm probably going to get 40 legendaries, and I'll probably have, maybe 20 boxes left over because the first box in the case I opened had the legendary, so I'll just sell the others as regular boxes. Well, maybe that's a good idea. So it really incentivizes stores to opening cases. Why not? You know you're going to get a legendary, and if you don't, then or you have a much more possible chance of getting a legendary because you know it's going to be 1 per case because it's sequential, right? It's sequential randomness, and that's the whole part of the algorithm I think people realized. Now, in my mind, I think that this was a type of thing that was done in boxes and cases, and Legend Story Studios is like, oh crap. Well, it really just incentivizes people and stores to open cases, and loose booster boxes aren't really as good because things can happen. So we want to implement a true random scenario, and in true randomness, think about it with the door scenario. So with sequential randomness, it was 5 doors. You go behind any of those doors and you're going to get 1 legendary if you open a case, right? Now with the true randomness, Let's say you go behind door number 1, you get 0 legendaries. Door number 2, 3, and 4, you get 1 legendary. And door number 5, you get 2 legendaries. That I feel is what true randomness is. And if you think about it on that very small scale, now I'm really like making this really simplistic by talking about the 5 door things. But think about the percentage chance. If you have 5 doors and one of them has 0 legendaries, that's 20% chance. 20% chance that you are going to pay $550 and literally just open Majestics. And Majestics, what, you get maybe 6 or 7. Let's say you get 6 and each one's worth like $10. I mean, you just got hosed, or I mean, it's probably going to be less. I mean, let's say each one is $5 per Majestic. You just got completely hosed on that case. 4 boxes, no legendary. How do you feel about that? But then what if you have the other type of the spectrum where you open a case and you're just so gosh darn lucky you get 2 legendaries, and that those 2 legendaries paid for the whole case, and then all the other cards are essentially free. You just hit the jackpot. I mean, that to me is more of a rush with a gamble. It's like you're gambling. Okay, you could get nothing, or you could get something crazy, or there's like a middle ground in between. Now, I think that this aspect really disincentivizes us as a consumer to do this. Because if you're asking me, hey, these are the odds to opening a case, and you could really, there's a 20% chance that you're going to get 0 legendaries. Well, let's see. I could spend $550 on a Tales of Aria First Edition case, or I could just buy like 2 or 3 legendaries on the open market and then buy the singles I need. It incentivizes me as a consumer not to buy cases, because I know there's a 20% chance I could get reamed and I could get effed. And I don't want to get effed. I want to get the cards that I want, and I want to get, cards of value. I don't get screwed over. I'm not a very lucky person in life. And if you look at a store perspective, well, for the small time stores that can only do small, case openings and small booster box openings, mass box openings, right? What have you? It disincentivizes them too, because you don't want to open up 5 cases, because let's say 2 or 3 of the cases you get hosed and you don't get a legendary. That is rough. You just lost a lot of money, and you can't accurately predict what you're going to get in return. Whereas before with sequential randomness, you could be like, okay, I know I'm going to get 5 legendaries out of 5 cases. I can predict reasonably what I'm going to make in this scenario. And then with this, true randomness, as a small store, you just can't. Now, as a bigger type store, one that has like a ton, right, of boxes and cases, I feel like you can more reasonably do this, and it really it incentivizes them in a way. It doesn't really incentivize. Let's say it's just more. If you look at the law of averages, yes, you could get like screwed on a couple cases, like 3 or 4 cases. But if you're opening 50 plus cases of any type of set, you can more look at, okay, what is the probability of everything, and it's more reasonable to like project what you're going to get. And overall, I think that both methods are fine. I think this new method that they're implementing, it's good. The whole just true randomness, and you could get screwed over and stuff, and I do see how it's promoting single sales on stores and stuff. But as a consumer, it's just disincentivizing me to buy booster boxes and opening. I'm just going to give you my personal thought, is that I don't like that. It's like I don't want to buy a case, and I spent $550 and I don't get a legendary card, and it happened to me in Monarch Unlimited, I believe. I opened a whole entire case. I was very lucky for it to be Monarch Unlimited, but I opened an entire case of Mon U, and I didn't get one legendary, and it killed. It just was like a punch to the gut. I was like, what the did I just do? And I was very lucky with Tales of Aria. I mean, I opened, I think, 3 legendaries so far. I think I've opened, 2.5 cases or something. I did order a good amount of product because there's a Guardian cards. I like Guardian and want to get the legendaries, and I wanted to have fun this time around. And the boxes weren't too crazy as Monarch was, so I did open product. I can tell you straight up, if I didn't pull some good stuff, I would have just felt like I was just like totally done it for me with box opening in general. But I think that that type of method is really tough as a consumer, and I definitely want to consider in the future, why am I opening cases? When legendary cards are $150, think about this rationally. Think about the price of the legendary card that you want. Let's say it's $200, 200 buckaroos, and it's a first edition. Let's say it's the Heart of Ice, right? Well, you could buy a booster box for 150 or pay $50 more and buy the Heart of Ice that you want, the legendary card you want. It makes so much more sense to just buy the legendary cold foil that you want, because you have a 100% chance of getting it if you just buy it, versus a booster box where you have a 25% chance. And you might say, Bronson, well, there's the Fable card, there's extended art, there's Majestics and Rares. I know there's all that stuff, but you have to look, the percentage chance of pulling a lot of that stuff is very low. You could do that, and that's the whole gambler's mentality. But I think that there's the legendary card is more of a chance. It's the highest probability thing. It's the most dollar amount for the highest probability. 25% for a card that's $100 to $200 is pretty legit. That's the bulk of the EV in the box. And personally, I'm honestly considering just buying singles from now on. I definitely want to have an acrylic case to put like one box of each set, first edition. I think that would be really cool. But going forward, man, I just think with this type of randomness as a consumer, it's really important to know your total odds. And I just want to, wrap it up. So my personal belief, I think that they made a really good move doing this type of thing. I think that when you have sequential randomness in products in Flesh and Blood, whatever they may or may not be, or maybe I'm making this shit up because I'm a normal guy in a normal room, it really opens the door for shady shit and just weird type of stuff. And it incentivizes everyone to buy a case, because you know that there's a sequence of 96 packs and you're going to get a legendary for sure. So it enforces that to where people want to buy cases. This method right now, it really kind of doesn't really incentivize anyone. It incentivizes people who love gambling, if anything. And honestly, it only makes sense to mass box open if you're doing it on like a 50 case basis, I believe. 50 case plus. I've never done that, but I could imagine that when you look at randomness and you look at how the odds of getting what you want and what's going to sell, I think calculating EV on like 50 plus cases is probably the way to go. Of truly being able to project what you're going to earn. But I think that one thing that Legend Story Studios could really do, and I think they're doing a good job overall, is make this information public. I know you say 1 in 96 packs, but sometimes you got to look at the case, perspective. If there is a 20% chance I am going to get no legendaries in the case, that's tough, man. That is really tough, and I think that those numbers should be public. It should say, hey, on a case basis, you could have a good amount of chance not to get anything. Like, and you could even do it by percentages. Say, hey, out of all the cases out there, 20% of them have 0 legendaries. 50% of them have 1 legendary, and the rest have two legendaries, and maybe there's a 2% chance of getting 3 legendaries. That would be perfect. And as a consumer of cases, of a lot of product, I think that would really project to the consumers, hey, these are your odds. And as consumers who look at these booster boxes, look at the cards that they could get, they could say, okay, well, if there's a 20% chance of me getting screwed over and me having a really bad experience, instead of buying that, I'm just going to buy from stores. So I think that that's kind of the overall, uh, not moral thing, but the overall just summary is that if you're going to buy these cards, if you're going to buy boxes, maybe instead of buying booster boxes, if you know your true odds of this thing is true random and you might get screwed over, it might be better to buy the singles. And that's kind of where I'm leaning towards at this current time. But overall, man, Tales of Aria is great. Monarch's great. Flesh and Blood's great. I love the game. You know me. I just think it's really important as consumers. Keep in mind, ending note is we are gambling. We are all gamblers that when we're opening booster boxes, I know you want to play the game, but before you play the game, you have to gamble. You have to gamble, open up packs, and see what you get. When you open up a pack, you have certain odds. Knowing the exact odds per product is really important as a consumer because you really want to know what you're getting into before you start betting. Thanks for watching, man.